you're small. How do you make it bigger?
Hang on. I don't know. Okay, we're live. There we go.
Hi.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Reading Between the Lines podcast. I'm Sara.
And I'm Nicole.
Who are you? Okay, perfect. All right. So it's June and it's mid-June. So let's talk a little bit about the books that we've been reading in the summer. And I know that we talked about this a little bit before we went live, but I wonder how many of us are actually like mood readers for the summer. I don't feel like I am, but I think you are. So tell us more about that.
Well, I've discovered my reading tastes really do change seasonally. In the winter, I might be more interested in reading cozy mysteries, maybe thrillers. And of course, during the spooky season, it's always fun to read a mystery or maybe even, dabble in a little horror. But in the summer, I tend to gravitate to books with themes that could be considered lighter fare. And for me, something that I want to read during the summer is a book that's easy to read, it's entertaining, and it quickly engages my attention and with a plot that moves along quickly. No heavy character-driven books for me in the summer. I want to be entertained. And a lot of times the themes of these books are maybe on the rom-com side of things, or maybe about people who are discovering found family. That's another really theme that I'm fond of, or people who are starting over. And lately, I have been really drawn to books about people who are getting a second chance in life. And
Very
it's been a
nice.
good choice for me because I've read some really good ones lately.
Okay.
I've
Well,
also been giving myself more permission to DNF books that aren't working for me right now.
and
And
let's explain what DNF means just in case.
it means did not finish.
Okay.
And I've heard on another podcast, currently reading, they have two categories for a book that you put down because you don't want to, it's just not working for you. They use DNF, which means you just stopped reading it. And they also have a category called not right now or
Oh, okay. Yeah.
NRN. And those are books that they're not in the mood for right now, but they don't want to completely give up on them. They may come back to these books at another time when they're more in the mood for it. And some of them that I recently set aside, I might get back to, and others are just like, no, never.
Yeah.
So I've set aside, I'm going to say maybe 4 books in the past few weeks. It's just like, okay, not right now.
I love that. I think I'm a little more flexible with my DNFs. If it's not holding my attention, I will absolutely get rid of it. Though I don't tell Jeff anymore because Jeff gets after me. He thinks I DNF too much. He's like, you got to commit.
Oh,
Anyway,
well.
so
No, life's too short. I really think life's too short to read a book that you're not enjoying. There are so many good books out there. Why would you want to waste your time reading something that is not thrilling?
right. Well, I've been reading and traveling quite a bit. So the past few weeks, I have been flying coast to coast, and I need books that are going to hold my interest for a 6-hour flight. And so I take this very, very seriously.
Yeah.
What I find is like for my formula for making sure that I have a book that's going to hold me, it needs to be authors who I know are 5-star plus reads for me. So tried and true. They have a great collection, or a mystery that has me hooked from the publisher summary, which I have one and I will share that later.
Okay.
I have a lot of podcast episodes planned. Yeah, well, we both do with Aaron.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to read a little bit for those. And so I have been exploring some different themes. So I haven't been sticking to a summer cozy, beachy, light read. No romances, no cozies. I do, though, tend to lean into that more into the fall. Like, give me all the gothic thrillers that you've
Right.
got. So, But
There are some good ones coming down the pipeline too, just
oh, are
FYI.
there?
Mhm.
Oh, we might need to talk about that.
Yeah.
And then a trope for summer. I don't know if this is really a trope or not, but it's something that I realize that I really do enjoy are books that take place on the sea. So one of those I'll talk about today, but I really want to be on a sailing expedition. I want to be there feeling the spray of the sea mist and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And that can be even a twisty, like a super yacht thriller. That's a thing. There are thrillers that take place on yachts or
Or yes, there was one
yeah,
that I read about. Of course, we're in the middle of a podcast, and I'm not going to remember the name of the book, but
right.
it was a group of people that sailed to a private island, and they couldn't get off the island, and people started being murdered right and left.
Rachel Hawkins writes that kind of theme.
Yeah,
She had a
yeah,
good one.
yeah.
There's another, of course, always the one trick pony. There's a creepy twin one that has
I
to
knew you
that
were
takes
going to say that.
you know how I love that.
You and your
Um,
creepy twins.
I just want to say for the record that not all twins are creepy. I just really enjoy the ones who are.
I
Anyway,
always imagine when you say creepy twins, those twins in The Shining standing at the
yes,
end of the
exactly.
hallway. Ooh.
Exactly. Love it. Anyway, the more ships, the better. So, Mom, why don't you start us off with what you've been reading?
Well, my Colton Gentry's Third Act by Jeff Zentner, published by Grand Central Publishing in April of 2024. This book is going on my top 10 of the year, possibly even the top 5 books of the year.
Get out.
I haven't enjoyed a book this much since I don't know when. It was so, so good. So here's the setup. Colton Gentry is a country western singer whose life has gone off the rails. He'd been riding high with his career going in the right direction. He was married to one of the hottest acts in the country, living in a fabulous house, making lots of money. However, he's recently lost his best friend, Dwayne, in a mass shooting incident at a music festival. And he has unfortunately turned to alcohol for comfort. And one night, fueled by Jim Beam and standing in front of a sold out concert crowd, Colton lets loose his opinions on gun control to his country western fans. This does not go over well at all.
Mm-hmm.
And the result is that Colton is basically canceled. His agent drops him. The recording company he's under contract to drops him. His wife tells him she wants a divorce. Colton's life, as he knows it, is over. And to make matters worse, he's broke. He's got no choice but to move back home to Kentucky and live with his mom until he figures things out. And back home, needing a job, Colton learns the only place in town that's hiring is a farm-to-table restaurant owned by the high school sweetheart he jilted. And this is the very best kind of second chances book, and I just loved every page of it. The book is unusual in that the author, it's in the romance genre, and the
Mm-hmm.
author is a man. And
Okay.
most romances, I think the predominant number of them are written by women. But Jeff Zentner is funny as heck. He has just the most amusing style of writing. The conversations, the banter between the characters, it's laugh out loud funny, and you're going to root for Colton to get his act together with all your heart. Oh,
I love that.
and this is unusual too. You know how a lot of times when you're reading a book and there's a dog in it,
Yeah.
you're kind of worried something bad might happen to the dog, which of course would
Yes.
ruin the book for you. So there's a dog named Petey in the book who will steal your affections. And the author very thoughtfully provides a footnote to the reader saying, quote, Petey does not die in this book, unquote.
Thank God.
So
Great.
anyway, 5 stars, loved this book. I highly recommend it to everybody. Very, very
I
good
love
book.
that. Fantastic. Oh, I'm so glad. And is this a debut for him, or has he written other books? Do we know?
Well, it is a debut,
Mhm.
but Jeff Zentner, I keep getting the author and the main character mixed up because they're very similar. Jeff Zentner, the author, has started his career a number of years back trying to break into the country western music scene.
Mhm.
and he has played for a lot of big name bands. I think Iggy Pop and there were in his bio, it's mentioned a whole bunch of
Okay.
different music groups that he has played with, and he has a philosophy that if you haven't made it in the country western music world by the time you're 30, you better move on to some other line of
Mm,
work. And I guess
okay.
he must have hit 30. He's a nice looking guy that looks like he's probably just about that age. And he decided he was going to turn his talents towards writing. And I think maybe it might have been a really good choice for him.
That might be true. I am certainly not an expert in country music, but I do have an acquaintance who was an aspiring country musician. Do you remember Ryan Freed? Ben
Mm.
Teeter's
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay.
BFF? Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And Ryan, I think he changed genres after he hit 30. He moved on to doing more like pop music and things like that. So he's definitely doing bigger and better things
Yeah.
now, but it was hard for him to break into the country industry.
Well, I
So
can imagine.
anyway, I also wanted to say before I forget, I have books for you that I bought for your birthday, and
Oh, thank
they
you.
they didn't get to you, but I took pictures of them and I put them on Instagram so you can look
Oh,
at them.
thanks.
They won't be a surprise because you asked for them,
Yeah,
but
I had a great birthday. It was really,
yeah.
really, it was kind of low key, but really, really a nice day.
Yay. Okay.
Thank you.
Well, all right. So I read Dragonfruit. So again, this is not again, but this is going to be a YA romantasy.
Oh,
And I recommend this for people who are not into YA. I always like to just recommend at least one or two because I feel like there are so many authors who are undiscovered. They're incredibly talented, and you're missing out if you're not exploring the genre a little bit more. And of course, I have a 12-year-old, and so it's nice to be able to read a book together and get her thoughts on that. She has not read this one, but I'm hoping that she'll read it now that I have it. This is Dragonfruit by Makiia Lucier. This was published April 9th of this year by Clarion. And the author is also from Guam. And so she's raised in the Pacific Islands. And this is a myth retelling. I found that I'm really into myth retellings lately. I have another one that I'll share later today. So this is a story about sea dragons, and they're really prevalent in this Pacific Islander type of world. There's a little bit of magic, and the dragons are extremely dangerous. They're hunted a little bit like whales were. Well, there still are, but in the past,
yeah.
where every part of them is harvested and used for various purposes, medicinal or oil for lamps, scales used for armor, and so forth. So there's an ancient legend that takes place in this book about the sea dragon's eggs. They are called dragon fruit, and they're capable of erasing one's deepest sorrow. So that could be an unwanted marriage, it could be illness, it could be death. However, it will cost you dearly if you find one of these dragon fruit. So Hanalei is our main character. She's about 18 years old, and she has been spending the past 5 years in exile. She was removed from the island that she lived on with her friends and family because of a huge, I don't know what to say. Her father stole something that was priceless, and so she's exiled
Hmm.
just by association. So she's been living alone. She's been researching sea dragons and kind of scraping together an existence, kind of a little like a vagabond. But a female dragon offers her a chance to return home and correct her father's wrong. To be clear, dragons don't talk in this. They're very much like animals and this other creatures. But there's also a prince. So Sam is the prince of Tamarind, and he's seeking a cure for his mother's illness. She's been in a coma for the past 5 or 7 years. This is also a story that takes place in a matriarchal society, and Hanalei returns. She has proof that his mother can be saved. So as they search for dragon fruit, There are merchant sea captain enemies who are racing alongside them to beat them to finding these dragon fruit. There's royal intrigue and politics. We have gorgeous, tropical, beautiful locations, seafaring adventures, battles on the sea, and then a profound empathy that is built for these deadly and beautiful sea dragons. So really
So
fun
when
book.
it really does sound good. When you say it's based on a myth, do you know what culture? Is it like Greek mythology or?
This is a Pacific Islander myth. And so based
Oh,
in Guam and maybe the other islands in that area. So yeah,
well, that sounds good.
I really enjoyed it. There's again a lot of nice culture that is shared about Guam, and then of course there's a little bit of myth about the tattoos that are chosen, and the tattoos move, and there's like you have not like a spirit animal, but you have like a familiar that your tattoo is. Anyway, there's a cute bat in this. There's it's really fun. It's really I would definitely recommend this for like tween and maybe young teenagers.
Yeah.
So
Oh, that
cool.
does sound good.
Yeah,
Would
I'd
you-
say I gave it 3 stars. 3 stars. It would have been more maybe for a younger reader. For me, it was 3.
Okay. All right. Well, my next book is called Sipsworth by
Mm,
Simon Van Booy, published by David R. Godine in May of 2024. And it's another book that it's a real feel-good book that will lift your spirits. It's just going to make your heart feel happy to read this book.
okay.
So it doesn't start out happy, though. After losing her husband and son, Helen Cartwright returns to the small English village where she grew up 60 years ago. And she's totally grief-stricken. And she's old and her life is boring. And she only wishes she could just hurry up and die. Her life is a repetitive slog of boring days and the same old routines until, and I'm going to quote, until one cold winter night, a chance encounter with a mouse sets Helen on a surprising journey.
This is the mouse book. Yay. Okay.
Mouse book. So I was all in with that description. And you might think that maybe this is a fairy tale type of story, but it's far from it. What
Hmm.
actually happens is one night Helen sees her neighbor across the street tote an old broken down aquarium out to the curb for trash pickup the next day. And she, for some reason, is just drawn to this aquarium. And so after the neighbor goes back in, she sneaks out to the curb and rescues the aquarium. And she puts it in her backyard, and there's some toys and things like a hamster wheel, things in the aquarium that she's
It's not really an
investigating.
aquarium, then it's like a habitat, like a rodent
I
habitat.
guess in the
Okay.
book it's called an aquarium, but yeah,
Oh,
it
okay.
sounds like it's more a habitat like you
Like a
described.
terrarium.
Yes. And it's dirty, and obviously it's been in an attic or someplace for a long time. So when she's investigating the contents of this quote unquote aquarium, she discovers that there's a mouse inhabiting it. So what
Okay.
does she do? She brings the mouse inside. And as the days progress, um, the mouse and Helen come to depend on each other in ways that Helen never imagined was possible. She names the mouse Sipsworth, and she finds that her relationship with this mouse is um, recreating feelings in her that she has thought were dormant for years. But best of all, while she's caring for Sipsworth, Helen reaches out to other villagers. She reaches out to the guy that runs the hardware store. She reaches out to the librarian to get more information on how to care for rodents. And the Sipsworth has a medical emergency, and she
Oh
reaches
my.
out to the ER cardiologist.
Of
And
course.
what happens is she finds that reaching out to these other people is bringing in many new contacts that become friends into her life. So her life goes from being boring to being, full of hope and reward because of her contact with all these people. It's almost like a found family kind of
Yeah,
a
it
theme.
sounds lovely.
But if you like a book about second chances and proof that there's goodness in the world, this book will definitely be for you.
I love that. So it's not magical in any way. Like the mouse doesn't talk. There's
No, I mean,
okay. He's
is it realistic? No.
well, okay, but still, it sounds lovely, very
No,
cozy too.
no. Sipsworth does not talk. He's 100% mouse, a normal mouse.
Okay. It sounds really good. So when was this published again?
Uh, in May of 2024, so very recent.
Wow. Okay. I
All of
can't.
these books that I'm talking about today were published either in April or May, that very, very or
Do you have
March.
it on Kindle? Or how
Yes,
did you read this?
I read
So
it on Kindle.
I can read this from your
Absolutely, we
Kindle
share
library.
our Kindle account, so
Yay.
yeah, that book is there for you, and it's
Okay, good.
very short. You'll breeze through this in, a day or 2.
I'm laughing so much because the next book I have to talk about is not heartfelt or
So are we
cozy.
doing like a 180-degree turn here?
Yes, yes, we are. I'm also reading Shogun right now, and so I only have 1,100 pages more to
Oh, yeah,
go.
that'll you'll be at that for a while.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about The Murder at the End of the World by Stuart Turton.
I've heard
Turton.
a lot about this book lately. I can't wait to hear what you
Yes.
think about it.
Okay. So Stuart, he's a great author. He wrote The Seven and a Half Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle.
Oh,
Uh,
right.
but I think people find him polarizing because he doesn't, I mean, he writes extremely genre bending stories. And so it's very hard to classify. And sometimes these descriptions of what the book is about is just barely scraping the surface. And so you find that you have the book in your hands and you're like, oh, this is like not at all what I thought. So, that can be good or it cannot be. It depends on the type of reader you are. So I did not like the end of Seven and a Half Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. I was deeply disappointed. So I was like, all right, well, Mr. Turton, you're not for me, and that's fine. However, this book has come out. So just to recap, Seven and a Half Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle was a 1920s English murder mystery and a Groundhog's Day stuck in time loop story. And this is nothing like that. So, okay. What else was I going to say? I picked this book up at an airport bookshop. It had literally come out it came out on the 21st of this of May. I mean, this is by Sourcebooks Landmark, and it is equally sci-fi, cli-fi. Didn't we talk about that with Light
Yes, we
Pirate?
did.
So climate sci-fi fiction. It's
Yeah.
dystopian. It's also a detective murder mystery. So it's all those things. And it's on a tropical island near Greece. And it's
Oh,
in the future. So we got we got a lot happening here. So here's the premise. There is a deadly fog that has destroyed the planet, meaning that humans, mammals, most everything that comes in contact with this fog is killed because there is a type of like little lightning bug that lives within this fog. That's its habitat now. And then these little bugs will just eat you all to bits. So that's gross. Anyway, there's an island that is secluded. It has some sort of like force field shield that is keeping the fog at bay, literally. And there are 122 villagers and then 3 scientists all living in harmony on this island. When one of the scientists is brutally murdered, the island's security system that holds back the fog starts to fail because only this one scientist had like the magic code to turn the
yeah,
shield back on.
that's a problem.
That's a problem. So everyone's going to die. So the murder has to be solved within the 107 hours that they have left before the shield completely breaks down. And the catch is that the security system has also erased everyone's memory the night of the murder. So the next day, no one is aware of who did it. It could have been it could be anybody who committed the murder. So very twisty. I felt that it had I had no connection to the characters in this book, though they are interesting. The only thing really keeping me hanging on to this book was just that whole premise of like, what the hell is going on? I don't want to give away too much. I would say if sci-fi is something that you're interested in, or cli-fi, this is worth reading. It's not overly sciencey or spacey or whatever. There's a little bit of technology. And let's see. What I did like was at the very, very end, the ending was much better, though I was still left a bit confused. Stay with it to the end. The author, Stuart Turton, writes a very heartfelt thank you to the reader at the end of the book to explain
Really?
his appreciation for readers, and for their support in allowing him to write these types of books that are genre bending. So I have a lot of respect for him because he's really loves he loves storytelling, and he loves to create stories that are just so original and so creative. And so
And how many writers actually take the time to express their gratitude to their readers?
it was really actually quite astonishing that he did this, because he's really writing about, like, he starts off by saying, like, don't you just love that moment of when you complete a book and that feeling of just silence as it settles into your soul? It was just really cool. He's wonderful.
Wow.
Anyway, I did give it 3 stars
Okay.
because it's a little weird, but I enjoyed it. And it kept me content on a plane.
Well, that's good. I have a question for you about
Mhm.
the flow of the book. I did not finish the 7.5 lives of what was her name? Evelyn
Evelyn.
Hardcastle.
Yes, this jumps around.
I had a hard time following the flow of the book. I was often and I was listening to the
Mhm.
audio version, and so I couldn't, like, flip back in the pages to check, now who was that again, or what connection do they have to the main character? I was just I just felt mixed up all the time
I
in
would
at the Evelyn book.
I would say that this book has that same problem. I would give it 5 stars for originality, and the story is like, the plot is fascinating, but the pacing, it does jump around. It's nonlinear in that, well,
Ah,
it is linear, but again, what was that other book like that Korean horror novel about the kid
yeah,
who can't remember anything,
yeah,
and then it kind of all comes back to him. This is very similar because nobody remembers what happened the night of the murder.
mhm.
And so there's these new things that were discovered. And it was hard to follow.
But they remember the scientist that got
Yes.
killed. They do.
Yes. I didn't think
Okay.
about that. Yeah,
Like,
that's
"Who's
weird.
that
Yeah.
guy?"
It's just like they have a lapse, like a blank spot in
Okay.
their memory. Not
I see.
that it's
Alright.
completely wiped out, but just that day, like one whole day of your life is just gone. I mean, I live with that every day. I don't I don't remember a lot of the days, but anyway.
Oh gosh, yeah, well, be careful what you really reveal here.
Right. Okay. So, what about you, mom? What's next?
Well, this is actually kind of strange because the next title is eerily similar to the first
Oh.
recommendation. I told you how much I loved Colton Gentry's third act. Well,
Mhm.
this is another book about second chances in life, and it's called Sylvia's Second Act.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say like Colton's fourth act. Okay,
I
go
know.
ahead.
Well, Sylvia's Second Act is a book by Hilary Yablon, and it was
Mhm.
published in March of 2024 by Pamela Dorman Books. So the setup is we have 63-year-old Sylvia is our main character, and she has been very unwillingly moved to a retirement community in Boca Raton, Florida, by her
Mm.
controlling husband, Louis.
Well,
She
is
does
he not going with her?
No, they've moved there together, and
Oh.
Louis can play golf, and, Sylvia's just supposed to, join in the senior citizen community activities and find things to do. But she does not care for Florida, she doesn't like the retirement community, and she's starting to think that maybe she really doesn't like Louis all that much.
Yeah.
And they've been married for a long time. And as the book opens, she comes home early one afternoon and she finds Louis in bed with her least favorite neighbor.
Oh, good lord.
And this unfortunate scene is catalyst that really gets Sylvia, shakes her up. and she decides to leave Lewis and Boca Raton, Florida. And she and her best friend, 77-year-old Evie, leave Florida for Manhattan so Sylvia can try to resume her career as a wedding planner. So I hope I haven't lost anybody yet, because this book was actually very funny. If just think about Sex in the City. Did you ever watch that program with Samantha and all the?
I know. I mean, I know what it is.
Sarah Parker. Anyway, I think Sex in the City with a cast of senior citizens, and mix it in with a little bit of Thelma and Louise.
Oh,
This book was absolutely laugh out funny. I mean, the situations were hilarious. It was very funny, but the themes are somewhat risque, and it does contain quite raunchy language. But
is this a British book or American?
No, it was American for sure.
Okay.
And if you can get past, the language and the kind of, risque situations, it's an absolute riot to follow Sylvia and Evie as they try to, discover how to reinvent themselves. They go through a lot of financial troubles. Lewis manages to drain Sylvia's bank account, and they're trying to find an apartment. They end up renting a room in Harlem, and it's so horrible that in the morning and the evening they go to the local Starbucks restroom to, wash under their arms and brush their teeth and put their face cream on, because the bathroom in their horrible little apartment is so awful. And of course, they try dating. Their families are causing them all kinds of woes because they think these old ladies have lost their marbles trying to move to Manhattan and, start over. But Sylvia does find a job as a wedding planner's assistant. And then there's all kinds of drama with the bridezilla, and the father of the bride is getting divorced from the mother of the bride, and little sparks are flying. So there's this senior citizen romance between Sylvia and the father of the bride. I was going to say,
would you classify this as a romance, or what? Is this more contemporary?
It's definitely a contemporary women's fiction, I would say.
Okay.
But if you enjoy adult romantic comedy, if you enjoyed TV shows like Say Yes to the Dress with all kinds of, bridal drama and details, and movies like Four Weddings and a Funeral, The Wedding Planner, The Father of the Bride, there's a lot of wedding themed movies, comedies that have been very popular. You might get a kick out of the book. I enjoyed it. It made me laugh out loud. I did get a little tired of the foul language coming out of these old ladies' mouths, because it just didn't seem realistic. I mean, how many old ladies do you know that say bad words? I don't
know. Yeah.
But anyway, I really enjoyed that one. I haven't been giving ratings for these books. I think the first book I read, Colton Gentry's third act, definitely 5 stars. I'd give it more if I could. Sipsworth was really, really well done. I'd give that one 4.5 to 5 stars.
Okay.
And Sylvia's second act, I had some problems with, as I say, language and the raunchy situations. But I'd give that close to 4, maybe 3.5 to 3.75. Yeah, I mean, it was entertaining. I'm going to forget about this book pretty quickly, I think, but I'm glad I read it. It was entertaining. Just what I wanted.
I love it. It sounds like a great summer read. I also love the representation of having older characters.
Yeah,
I like that.
Actually, that was kind of refreshing, although unrealistic, because how many women in their late 60s or early 70s, have a budget for fabulous clothes that they actually look amazing in? I mean, it wasn't realistic. I mean, most 77-year-old ladies are going to be wearing elastic waist pants and, Crocs.
Comfortable shoes.
Yeah. I don't know. So it wasn't, but it's one of those books. Just suspend belief and just go with it. It was fine.
I love it. Okay. Well, my last book that I wanted to talk about was from May of last year, but Atalanta by
Oh,
Jennifer Saint. Did you read that one?
no, but I've heard of that one too.
Okay, so I don't know if I'm ever saying her name right. Atalanta. This is a reimagining myth of Atalanta. She's a fierce huntress raised by bears, kind of
Wow.
mentored by the goddess Artemis. And she was the only woman to fight alongside the Argonauts. So
Hmm.
she's born a daughter instead of a son, and her parents are the king and queen of something. And they decide, no, we don't. That was a waste. So they just abandon her on a mountainside.
Yep, put
We
her out
don't
on the
we don't
hillside. The
we
bears
don't need her.
rescued her.
Yep. So Mother Bear found her and raised her, as well as the goddess Artemis discovers that she exists and kind of is under. So Atalanta is under Artemis's protection and lives in a protected part of Artemis's forest. So the first half of this book is all about Atalanta growing up. She's quite the wild thing. She's living in the forests. She's hunting. She's swimming. She lives amongst some water nymphs. So there's that. I think these are other female humans that have been transformed into nymphs by Artemis and kind of rescued from the other situation. So it's kind of like that sort of same situation that Atalanta's in. So yearning for adventure as she gets to be about like 18, 19, 20, Atalanta decides that she is going to join the Argonauts on their quest for the Golden Fleece. Artemis approves of this because Atalanta will be fighting in Artemis's name.
Is
And
that a
so,
problem with the Argonauts having a woman on their ship?
yes, it was at first, but then she's pretty badass. And so they're like, oh, okay, she's cool. They're fine with it. As I said, she's a very fierce warrior. The tale then shifts from like these forest adventures that we've been following Atalanta through. And now we're on this boat. We're, again, sea voyages to other islands. Um, During this time, she falls in love with a man and begins to question Artemis's true intentions for her and
Mm,
whether or not she can really trust Artemis, though, of course, Artemis is a goddess, so there's no escaping her. But I guess that would be like having a very overbearing parent. Anyway, Atalanta has to just basically find herself and discover what she wants to do. Can she be independent and a strong woman, as well as being in love with a man and having that relationship, or having a child and being a mother? These are things that she thinks about throughout the book.
right.
The writing is really well done. It's very delicious, descriptive. It's very much packed with emotion. There's this strong, again, line of like being feminist, but also liking men and not hating them and wanting to live a life where you are in service of others versus that independence. So I gave this 4 stars. It's a fantastic retelling.
Wow, you
Um,
must have really liked it because you're a harder grader than I am.
I am. I did not like the ending, but that's not Jennifer Saint's problem. That's the myth. That's the way it is. That's the way the book and the story ends. So I didn't give her less stars for that, but I definitely would pick it up. I think all of these books that I mentioned today have like a tropical island kind of
Well,
vibe. So
when you think about it, isn't that kind of a summer theme?
it is. I didn't realize that till just now. I didn't think I had a theme for
Now, is
summer,
this
but
book on our shared Kindle account, or did you read a physical
no.
copy?
I have a physical copy, but I will bring it to you. I'll add it to your birthday book list pile, your birthday books I'm giving you.
Wow, yeah, that one sounds really good to me.
It's quite good.
I think we should tuck this topic of not caring for the way that an author ends a book to our list of upcoming discussion questions, because I think that could be very interesting. I've got a number of books that I wanted to throw against the wall when it ended.
Aaron really wants to talk about that. I agree with you on that. I think in this case, I didn't want to throw the book against the wall, but I was disappointed. I am not very familiar with Greek myths, and so I didn't know going into the book what the ending was going to be. Um, it's just sad, and I don't like sad endings. But anyway,
Do you like Greek myth retellings. Do you think that's a genre that you would like to read more of?
Maybe.
I recommend a book called Circe.
Yeah,
I
that sounds
I
like a
think
good
you
one.
might like that. I had a physical copy, but I think I might have sold it on Pango. I'll look and see if I have it, but I don't know if I still
Yeah.
if I kept it. But that's a good
Okay.
one. And there are a number of others I can recommend to you. I'll have
Um,
to look at my
I'm
list.
looking at my bookshelf over here, and I do have Electra, also by Jennifer Saint, but I
I
haven't read it yet.
love Electra. Oh my
Oh, you
goodness,
did?
that's good.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Talk
She's
about
kind
it.
of a villainess, though.
Well, believe me, she had her
I mean,
reasons.
right, right. Yes, she
She
did.
really did have her reasons for what she did.
So maybe I'll be along for the ride for that. So,
Yeah,
okay.
Electra was great. So what's
So
up next for you?
Shogun, I'll be reading Shogun for the next year. But as I mentioned, I do want to read more of Rachel Hawkins. I have The Villa. I think you gave that to me or you
Doesn't it
loaned it
have a
to me.
beautiful cover?
It does have a beautiful cover. But that one's a thriller at a Tuscan villa. That sounds
It's
pretty
set
good.
in a Tuscan villa, and it has to do with, um, a murder that happened in the '70s,
Oh,
that involves, British rock stars at the time that were staying at the villa. So, I it was
cool.
yeah, it was good. It was
What
really
about
good.
you? What's up for you?
Well, I plan to continue, with the light and entertaining type of books that have been calling to me, and I was looking at my bookshelf, and I've got my eye on the, Abby Jimenez new book, Just for the Summer, and, of
Hmm.
course, I just got Margot's Got Money Troubles from Book of the Month Club, but I
I
was
am so interested in that because I read the first page and the premise, and there are some things about it that I'm like, ugh, I don't know, but it does sound fun.
yeah, yeah. So, just this morning, I was cruising through Instagram, looking at various posts by book reviewers and people that
Hmm.
have book, channels, and I was reminded of T.J. Newman's book, Drowning, that came out last summer. T.J. Newman is a former, um, air, um, stewardess,
Okay.
flight attendant, and she has turned to writing after she, retired from being a flight attendant, and her first book, I'm blanking on the title of her first book, but
Hmm.
it was really good. Oh, Falling.
Hmm.
Falling, and it was about, a plane situation, and Drowning is about a plane that crashes and sinks to the bottom of the ocean with unfortunately, not everyone got out of plane, and there are some people still left on the plane, and, of course, the oxygen's only gonna last a short time. It's supposedly just hold your breath and not breathe until the end of this book. It's one of those books that supposedly you cannot put down. It is so compelling.
Mm.
How are these people gonna get
Unputdownable.
out? So I bought that book last summer, but I haven't read it yet. I think I thought it was a perfect book for the summer because of the theme,
Okay.
and I got to be the end of the summer and I hadn't read it yet, so I've been
Hmm.
saving it, but I forgot about it. So
Got it.
I'm that might be the next book I pick up.
Okay. Well, there you go. All right. So next for us, I think we'll be talking to Erin about with the theme of time travel, and it'll be the three of us. I'd like to re-record our intro to include him as well
Oh, good.
in that. So, yeah, that's what will be coming up next, maybe in the next week or so. And then at the end of June, we can talk about our wrap up for the month and then what we're looking forward toward whatever, July, what we're
Yeah.
going to read for July.
Alright.
Okay.
I
Well,
can't
all right.
wait. Good.
Thanks everybody. And thanks, Mom, for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for
And
listening, everybody.
happy reading.
Yes.